world, we all write our own stories. We create our own destinies.
Are you ready?
I've been ready.
Let's do it.
Everything is more connected than you think. It will be difficult and dangerous.
This is personal. Show them who we are.
If you were proud of who you are, it's a superpower.
Burns good or burns bad? It burns good.
Mama hot! I'm in.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel just released a new Secret Invasion trailer with a bunch of new footage and Easter eggs, so we'll break it all down. A big part of Rhodey's Skull storyline during this will also help set up the Iron Man Armor Wars movie, so I'll explain what's going on with that. And I know there's a bunch of other questions about what's going on with Ke Huy Quan and Michelle Yeoh during this too, because both of them are big MCU actors in Loki Season 2 and Shang-Chi too. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I will be doing full episode videos for Secret Invasion when it starts in a couple weeks. We don't have to wait that long, finally. This will also set up a bunch of other stuff that's separate from the whole Kang storyline. This is more Earth-based stuff that it's setting up during Marvel Phase 5 in the Dark Reign era of the general movies that are happening the next couple of years. But one of the biggest new scenes here is of Emilia Clarke's Gia character entering this chamber that the evil Skrulls, or the bad faction of Skrulls, were building in all the previous trailers in this abandoned Russian nuclear power plant. They're using the power plant to power their device here. She activates it and power surrounds her with energy, and it looks like a classic Marvel power upgrade type of scene, like a big glow-up power upgrade for her. The energy in the device just evolving her Skrull powers, turning her into a Super Skrull like some of the other younger generation of Skrulls during this. One of the big things that's happening, like you see some of them use their Super Skrull powers, like this is Gravik, the leader of the evil faction of Skrulls. Supposedly the younger generation, like this evil faction, is trying to turn themselves into Super Skrulls, like give themselves even more powers that the older generation of Skrulls, like the good Skrulls, Talos' group, doesn't have, making them a little more like the Skrulls that invaded Earth during the original comic book Secret Invasion, able to actually mimic the powers of the Avengers, the X-Men, and their villains. Emilia Clarke is playing Gia, Talos' daughter. She's like the little girl from the Captain Marvel movie that's just grown up now, and the whole idea is they're just really pissed off that Nick Fury hasn't helped them find a permanent place to settle and call their own. There'll be lots of comments about this too, because even if Nick Fury has been broken since the events of Avengers Endgame, like he's just been hiding out on his space station because he doesn't know what to do and he hasn't assembled the new Avengers yet, it still feels like he had all that, like all the time during the 90s and the early 2000s before the events of the first Avengers movie to just find a different planet somewhere in the universe for the Skrulls to live. So during a lot of the previous trailers, you hear Emilia Clarke's character telling him, you created this problem, this is your fault, do you feel responsible for all this? Because essentially Nick Fury promised them a new home and never delivered on it, and so this younger generation of Skrulls is like, fine, we'll just take the Earth for ourselves then. And it seems like a big part of that plot is giving themselves more powers, like turning themselves into Super Skrulls. One of the reported things too, there's been a lot of rumors about Emilia Clarke's character turning into like a version of comic book Abigail Brand. Reportedly, some of these new powers that she gains is the ability to create green fire or green energy, kind of like Abigail Brand's X-Men powers in the comics. And I think part of the idea during this, like you see her cradling her father Talos' body as he's attacked here. I don't know if he's going to die, but I think part of the idea is that she'll become Nick Fury's new right-hand person on this Saber space station in sort of like a version of MCU Abigail Brand, but she'll just be using that name as an alias. There's been a lot of fan art of her as Abigail Brand. Obviously, she wouldn't look exactly like this when she's working with Nick Fury in the future, but you kind of get the idea, you get the vibe of the character. Like, the idea is that she would become a much bigger character in the future of the MCU, the same way that Kit Harington, another Game of Thrones alumni as the Black Knight, would become a bigger character in the future of the MCU. It'll be real funny to actually see them have a scene together during Secret Wars or some future Marvel production, like, wow, you look familiar. Have I seen you before? Have you ever tried to kill me? Everybody just waiting to hear the Black Knight say that he doesn't want whatever Gia, Emilia Clarke's character, is trying to give him. One of the big differences from the comics, though, they have this whole plot here where the Skrulls are trying to give themselves more powers, evolve themselves into Super Skrulls. During the comic book Invasion, the Skrulls that invaded had the ability to mimic the powers of all of Earth's heroes, and normally Skrulls don't have that ability. Like, normal Skrulls only have the cosmetic ability to change their form. Mimicking powers is like way, way beyond that, which is why the original Super Skrull was just one character, like it was a very special thing. Originally, the Super Skrull was meant to be one character, and his name was Kl'rt.
Citizens of planet Earth, I am Super Skrull, emissary of the Imperial Skrull Expeditionary Forces. I have been appointed by Emperor Amok to be your new leader.
He started out as a normal Skrull soldier in their army, decorated for his bravery, his combat ability. He won all these accolades, then fell into disgrace, got banished. Then to tie things more to Secret Invasion, the original idea for the Skrulls to pull off Secret Invasion came from Emperor Dorek, who was the emperor before Princess Ferranti, the person who actually pulled it off, came along. Bringing it back around to the Fantastic Four, because Super Skrull came from the Fantastic Four comics, basically. Originally, Emperor Dorek is the one who tried to invade Earth in the Fantastic Four comics. It was way back in Fantastic Four number 2 in 1961. Like, that's how far back it goes. The Fantastic Four wind up stopping the invasion, and then he basically takes all their powers and grafts them onto Kl'rt, making him a Skrull that has actual special powers, whereas most of the Skrulls at the time only had the ability to change form and just had basic super strength as part of their biology. Their bodies are a little bit stronger, more resilient than human bodies, in the way that all regular Asgardians who don't have special powers just have stronger bodies and live longer. Same thing with Loki's character. Now, like, Loki and Thor are different because they do have actual special powers. Like, Loki practices magic. Thor has actual celestial god powers. They're just changing this a little bit in the MCU version, giving all these newer Skrulls, like the younger generation, special powers, more evolved bodies. Getting to the Iron Man Armor Wars of it all, the way that this sort of connects to the Armor Wars movie is that Rhodey during the series is reportedly going to be a Skrull. Like, there's lots of rumors, and it sounds like in the last trailer, he says very Skrull-like things, like, you better be ready, talk, talk. They might find out what happened to the real Rhodey years ago. I believe the idea is that this version of Rhodey that might wind up being a Skrull, if that's true, has been a Skrull for years. And Skrull Rhodey has been using his access to the president, like during the events of the series when things pick up. Rhodey is supposed to be the Secretary of State, sort of taking Thunderbolt Ross's previous job, and he's become the right-hand man to the U.S. president, and the Skrull has been using the access to the president to help destabilize the world, basically. I think part of Gravik and the evil Skrull's plan taking over the Earth was to have humans essentially destroy themselves, like create nuclear assured destruction. And as part of that, Skrull Rhodey's actions allow all of Iron Man's tech to get into the hands of villains all over the world, as well as Val and Thunderbolt Ross, who start misusing it. And during the Iron Man Armor Wars series, the real Rhodey returns to deal with that and take it out of the hands of the government, like the comic book Armor Wars series. So don't be surprised if Damage Control winds up being one of the villains during the Armor Wars series. In fact, during the original comic book Armor Wars, the US government actually uses some stolen Stark tech to create their own armor suit, Ironmonger style, like a real big one, called Firepower, which Iron Man winds up having to destroy. So you can see how Thunderbolt Ross and Val eventually lead to a lot of this bad stuff happening during Armor Wars, in the same way that Sword kind of became backdoor villains during the WandaVision series, or at least people within those organizations. They kind of got into this during the Ms. Marvel series. Damage Control was using the Stark Tech drones, the Edith drones. They just repainted them to look a little bit different, but they were meant to be the same drones, going after regular citizens instead of just regular criminals. Basically, the idea is that during Marvel Phase 5, Thunderbolt Ross eventually becomes president of the United States. Val is now in charge of the CIA, and they're using it to turn the United States into something more akin to a police state, and paying off that line from Avengers Age of Ultron where Iron Man said, "I would like to wrap the world in a suit of armor." The whole idea is that Iron Man had become paranoid, and he wanted to overprotect the world at the cost of everyone's personal freedoms. And now Thunderbolt Ross and Val are just actually doing that. So they do bring Justin Hammer back during the Armor Wars series. They can just say that he's actually working for Thunderbolt Ross and Val, and things start to go crazy with the armors going out of control, Ultron being released again. They don't actually have a release date for the Armor Wars movie right now, so that'll probably wind up being a Marvel Phase 6 movie. There'll be a few smaller delays just because of the strike that's happening right now, but those will be smaller than the super delays and chaos caused by the virus. That basically wound up delaying pretty much all movies and TV shows from every studio for about 2 years. Talking about Ke Huy Quan and Michelle Yeoh's characters in the MCU, Ke is playing one of the brand new characters during Loki Season 2 called Ouroboros, and he's the main tech guy of the TVA who's been working there forever, basically, but they just didn't go there during the events of Loki Season 1, so that's why we didn't see him. Michelle Yeoh's character will just continue in Shang-Chi 2 when they get ready to release that movie. They don't have a release date for that movie yet, but that'll probably also wind up being a Marvel Phase 6 movie as well. If you have any other big questions about what's happening during Secret Invasion or the related series or movies, just write them in the comments below. There's a bunch of big videos that I'm working on right now. There have been some cool reports about Avengers 6 Secret Wars that support some of my theories about the legacy Marvel actors coming back again, like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, the other legacy X-Men actors. I'll try to finish all those videos as quickly as possible. Everyone click here for my new Iron Man Armor Wars teaser video, and click here to learn about how Robert Downey Jr. of all people almost became Doctor Doom of the Marvel movies. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.